Hi, everyone. Welcome to Vanquish, procrastination, perfectionism, and imposter syndrome. Sounds like a tall order, right? But don't worry, we will get to all of that. So first, I would love to ask you to unmute yourselves and just share with me, when you procrastinate, what do you do? What are the actual activities that you end up doing when you are procrastinating? I would love to know.
I check my email.
That's a good one.
I look at Facebook.
Oh yeah.
And I get up and do something in the kitchen.
Yep, chores. It's a really common one, right? Anyone else want to share what they get up to?
And attending to things that are like responsibilities.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. Responsibilities. Anyone else want to share something they tend to get up to? I know cleaning is a really common one, like cleaning, reorganizing your space.
Yeah, I do that.
Sometimes
I'll read like articles. I'll read articles online, or maybe I'll try to play a video game, but I'll just be too distracted by whatever I'm trying to ignore. So, but yeah, cleaning, that's me.
Yes. I have Clorox wipes sitting right over here, and I know when I'm procrastinating because those Clorox wipes come out. Absolutely. Tina, we are just sharing things that we do when we are procrastinating, like activities that we tend to do while we're procrastinating on a project. What's your go-to?
Checking messages on my devices.
Yep. Yeah, that's a big one. Email can be a deep rabbit hole to fall into. All right, well, we'll get back to that in a little bit, but I just wanted to give you a chance to share those. So why do we procrastinate? So it's not because we're lazy. Like if you listen to all those different things that we do when we're procrastinating, we're not being lazy, right? Like those are actually difficult things, and in some cases more difficult than the thing that we're actually avoiding and less fun. So why is it that we do those things instead of doing the thing that we actually want to be, producing and creating? It's because we are anxious about the outcome. Now we want to talk about what is the difference between anxiety and fear, because those two are not synonymous, despite what some people might tell you. Anxiety is, so fear, let's talk about fear first. Fear is like a fear of a clear and present danger. Something is happening right now. I'm being chased by a bear, right? Someone's yelling at me, like something bad is happening right now. That's when we are afraid. We go into that reactive mode of fight or flight or, freeze or fawn or whatever it is that we think is going to help get us out of this scary and dangerous situation. That's fear. Anxiety is worry about a potential fear. The fear isn't actually here yet, but we're concerned that the fear might be here. So maybe we're a little anxious about going camping because we might encounter a bear. Maybe we're anxious about a conversation because someone might get upset, right? So that's anxiety. It's basically the fear of fear itself. That's what anxiety is. So why would we anticipate a negative outcome when we really have no idea what might happen? We, of course, have no idea what is going to happen in the future. And yet we tell ourselves this story that a bad thing might happen. And that's usually based on our past experiences or experiences that we've heard about from others. So if we've rarely experienced success, or never experienced success in a particular area, maybe because it's new, maybe because it's something that you've just never tried before, and so you've never had success in that area, it's difficult to envision and anticipate succeeding, right? It's hard to imagine a positive outcome because you've never experienced that, especially if people around you have also never experienced it. If you've had a negative experience, especially, a failure, something you could consider a failure in that area, well, naturally, that's what you're going to anticipate because that's what you've experienced in the past. If you've heard a lot of stories of other people failing at doing this thing that you want to do, then of course you're going to have that negative outcome in your mind. That's the first thing that your mind's going to go to. And so you're going to have anxiety. That makes perfect sense. And now this is where perfectionism comes in, okay? Because perfectionism is a desire to control that outcome and often the experience so that it will be perfect. But if we will only accept a perfect outcome or a perfect experience as a success, then we will avoid any and all uncertainty, an outcome that we cannot control. We will shy away from that. So perfectionism results in avoiding uncertainty because uncertainty leads to anxiety. And that is definitely not a perfect experience and may lead to a less than perfect result. So in short, we go toward experiences that we anticipate will be positive. And we avoid experiences that we expect to be negative. This all makes sense, right? We're not dumb. We're doing stuff that actually is very rational and makes a lot of sense. It is no surprise that we tend to avoid activities that we feel uncertain about or anxious about. If we are unsure how to create a positive outcome and a positive experience, then we will subconsciously avoid that activity and focus on things that we are more certain about. So what do we do when we procrastinate? We do stuff that we feel certain about, stuff that's in what I call our zone of certainty, the familiar zone. Some people call this the comfort zone, but it's not necessarily very comfortable, is it? Sometimes it's actually quite uncomfortable, but it is certain. We know what to expect in that area. And so that's what we fall back on. I know what to expect when I get out those Clorox wipes. I'm going to have an unpleasant experience while wiping things down because it smells yucky, but then I'm going to have that feeling of satisfaction when I have completed it and everything looks clean. When we go to our email, we know what to expect. We know how to look at email, right? I've done this lots of times. And so it feels very certain for us. So there are, of course, things that we can do to treat that particular symptom. Here are a few of those things. Every time you feel anxious, you can refocus your anticipation onto a potential positive outcome. So if you tell yourself it's going to be a total flop, you can catch that and go, but it might be a raving success. What would that feel like? What would that look like? And give yourself that moment to actually envision and imagine what would a raving success actually look like? How would that feel? The next thing you can do is to inoculate yourself against that unease with uncertainty by deliberately injecting a little bit of uncertainty into your everyday routine. It's like a little uncertainty vaccine, okay? So we vary our routine, do things just a little bit differently than you normally would, right? If you always drive the same way to get someplace, drive a different way today. If you always, eat the same thing for lunch, eat something different today. Just mix it up, vary your routine, okay? Try something you haven't tried in a while or you've never tried before. Take calculated, calculated emotional risks. Don't just throw yourself out there willy-nilly because that can lead to very negative experiences, which then you will remember next time and think, well, I'm never doing that again. That was horrible. But if you take very small calculated emotional risks, I call this resilience training. So if you have a tough conversation that you've been avoiding, try starting it on purpose on your own terms so that you're not caught off guard. Right? Do something that's just a little bit scary. Ask someone for a compliment. Ask someone that you know well, hey, what do I do really well? Or what do you think I'm good at? Okay, fish a little bit. It's a very vulnerable place to put yourself. And so that can help build up resilience as well, because you're likely to get a very positive response. So if you can do those little things to kind of build up resilience around emotional uncertainty and give yourself a little boost at the same time, that's ideal. The third thing you can do is to break down action cycles into familiar, achievable tasks. I have a tool for this, and we're going to look at that at the end, but I want to talk about it a little bit. So this is basically every task is made up of little teeny tiny micro tasks. And there are tasks within there that you are uncertain about, but then there are tasks within there that you are not uncertain about that you've done many, many times before, right? Like, for example, if you are writing an outline and you've been avoiding it because, you know, it's a little uncertain, you're not sure what you're going to say there, start with open up a Google Doc. Have you done that before? Do you know how to do that? Is that in your zone of certainty? Do that first. And if it's not, you know, maybe ask someone to help you, right? Get to a place where the things that you're uncertain about, you can kind of, you know, it's like giving a dog a pill that you wrap in yummy meat. Find the parts of the task that you're more certain about, and then identify those parts of the task that you're uncertain about and see if you can just reduce that uncertainty a little bit. And again, I have a tool for that, which we'll look at the end. But to truly vanquish procrastination, we actually need to go straight to the root cause. And I love this. There's a British TV show that has a theme song. It goes, it'll never work, it'll never work, it'll never work. And that just is like the most British thing I've ever heard, first of all. But that, to me, sums up what I call the imposter monster. That is the theme song of the imposter monster. It'll never work, it'll never work. Don't even bother trying, because it'll never work, right? So I would love for you to share in the comments, what are some of the recurring themes in your imposter monster's dialogue? What are the things that it says and tells you? Love to see that. In the meantime, you might find it, well, okay, so I was going to tell you a little story. So I went to some family yesterday. I was staying with family, and I have just finished a draft of my next book, the book after Spark Genius, which comes out in January, which is This Will Not Be on the Test, a permission slip and guide for tweens to unleash creative flow. And they have a tween, so I was reading some of these chapters aloud. Well, I was just going to read one chapter, and then they asked me to read another chapter. They asked me the next night actually to read some more. So I knew that they liked it. I was getting great feedback from them. And yet I walked away feeling like, well, this is crap. And I realized, oh, I'm in the this is crap phase of my creative process. I know that because this happens every time when I get to the point where I'm almost going to release it to the world. I'm just about ready to get it out there. I have this moment where I think, well, this is crap. And probably everything I've ever created is crap. And I should probably stop doing this altogether. And then I get through that, and it turns out it's great, and people like it. So I've just gotten used to the this is crap phase. So it's going to be awful. Yeah, that's another one. This is crap. It's going to be awful. So many people do this better, right? Oh yeah, absolutely. The comparisons. The imposter monster loves to compare you, especially totally unfair comparisons that make no sense. No one will ever even look at this. It's not going to matter to anyone else. Like, why bother? Why even bother? There's so much stuff that's good that's already out there. Why does my voice even need to be here? So common. I can't do it. It's too hard. It's beyond me. Just, I can't do it. It's beyond me. Yeah. I'll be so embarrassed, right? I'm going to get rejected. This is going to be so embarrassing. I'm going to be humiliated, publicly humiliated. Yes. This task is too overwhelming, it's too involved, it's too big. Who do you think you are? You're not an expert, right? Who are you? Who are you to say this stuff? There's experts out there who've already said this. Nobody needs your voice. Okay, very, very common stuff. It will destroy me. Yeah, this is gonna destroy me if I try to do this. Well, you might find it comforting to know, okay? Imposter syndrome, the feeling that you are unqualified or incompetent despite evidence to the contrary, is a very good sign that you are actually quite competent. Hear me out. So they've actually done studies on this, and it turns out that people with a lot of imposter syndrome tend to actually be very good at what they do. And there's a couple of reasons for this. So have you ever heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect? Anyone heard of that? Okay, so the Dunning-Kruger effect is the opposite of imposter syndrome. This is when people are very like new at doing something, but they think they are amazing at it. People who are really not good at something, but they think they're great. If you ever watched the old American Idol, right? Those people who just cannot carry a tune in a bucket, but are so confident, and they come in there like, I'm gonna nail this. And you're just looking at them like, how do you not know? But that's the Dunning-Kruger effect, okay? And the opposite of that happens because you don't know what you don't know, right? When we first start something, we don't know what we don't know. And so it's like a whole new world to us. Have you ever taken like a dance class, and on the first day, you're like, oh, I'm so good at this, right? Like I hear the music, I'm moving to it, I see what the instructor's doing, I'm doing something sort of comparable, and I'm like, I was born to do this. I'm amazing at this. And then by about day 2 or 3, when you actually start learning the steps, I'm like, I'm terrible at this. I should give up now. I'm never coming back. I have no idea what I'm doing here. People are probably looking at me and laughing at me right now. But by the end of the class, I'm actually starting to go, oh, okay, I get it. I know how I can do this. I know how to do this, right? And that's because you now know what you don't know, but you know you're learning. And so imposter syndrome happens when we know what we don't know. We have enough self-awareness and we have enough awareness of this topic to know that we don't know everything, to know that we are still learning. And we have this beautiful humility, right? But we also have good taste. So Ira Glass tells this wonderful story of an NPR intern who came to him and was like, yeah, I've been trying to do this podcast, but it sucks. Like every time I listen to it, I'm like, it's terrible. I don't want anyone to listen to this because it's just not very good. And Ira says, oh, well, that's a great sign that you should keep doing it. And the intern's like, what are you talking about? And he says, oh, yeah. If you know that it's terrible, that tells me that you have really good taste. And you can tell the difference between the efforts that you're making right now and what you want it to sound like. Because you've heard really good stuff and you recognize that it's really good stuff and you want your stuff to be really good stuff. And if you keep doing it, it will be. It will become really good stuff. But if you give up now, it won't. It will never be that good, right? And so keep going. When that imposter monster voice comes in, that is actually a giant neon sign that says, keep going in this direction. So your imposter monster wants you to stop. It wants to protect you. It doesn't want you to embarrass yourself. It doesn't want you to take any risks. It doesn't want you to go into that uncertain zone. And so what your imposter monster is trying to do is protect you. It means well. It has good intentions, but its methods are not very effective at actually getting you to be better at this thing, right? And so sometimes we have to just like have a little dialogue with our imposter monster. But to do that, we kind of have to get to know it a little bit better. So we have a list here of things that it tends to say. So that's a great place to start. But I'd like us to take a little moment to actually kind of envision, what does our imposter monster look like? And I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to draw a little picture of your imposter monster, and we're going to give our imposter monster a name as well. I went ahead and did this earlier, so I'm going to show you mine here. So I don't know if you can see that. The lighting's a little bit weird there. Can you see that? This is good girl. Okay. I call my imposter monster good girl because she just really wants everyone to know that she's a very good girl and she's trying very hard. She's working really hard to impress everybody and to be what everybody needs her to be. And so good girl, she's like this little kid that's constantly tugging on my skirt, like, mom, this is scary. And I don't think we should do this. And I think you should stop right now. So that's good girl. And so I've learned how to talk to good girl. And I want you to take a moment and draw a little cartoon of your imposter monster and give them a name. I'll give you a moment to do that. Well, anyone who wants to share, I would love to see your imposter monster and to know what their name is. I can't quite read that. What does it say, Mom?
Never enough.
Never enough. Yes. Oh my gosh, such a common refrain. Never enough. You'll never have enough. You'll never be enough. You'll never do enough. Never enough. A very common one. Who else we have here? Oh, I love the hair. So good. What's the name?
I don't know if there's really a name, but he's kind of like too much, right?
Too
You care
much.
too much, you are too much. So maybe
Oh yeah.
too much Tommy. I don't know. Like
Too much Tommy. I love it. Too much
I
Tommy.
have to go with a little, what is
Of
it?
course, alliteration. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Too
there
much
you go.
Tommy. Love it. Maya, what do we have there? Oh, he's so cute. I can't. So good. Oh, that's so cute. I want to hang out with your imposter monster.
And it's like a snake that's kind of like a pile of poo, and it's got a dead plant. It's got dead plants for a head because that keeps happening to me, and it makes me feel like some. And its name is Bucket because it sounds like bucket.
Yeah, Bucket. I love it. Buck. Tina, who do we have here? Oh yeah, she's a queen. I love that. She's so regal.
Yeah, that's because she knows she has a shine, but she's been programmed to esteem others higher than yourself. So stay low so you don't.
Absolutely. So now that we have confronted our imposter monster head on, we know who this is and who we're talking to, we're going to start a little dialogue with our imposter monster. Okay, and this dialogue has 3 parts to it. The first part is just to repeat back what you heard. Okay, so for example, I might say, "Hi, good girl. Hello. I hear that you're feeling anxious about this new project I'm working on. You think it's not going to turn out very well. You think I'm going to embarrass myself and upset all the people who are counting on me to provide certainty for them. I understand that." Then we're going to empathize. Okay, we're actually going to empathize with what your imposter monster is feeling right now. So I can understand why you might feel that way. There's a lot of uncertainty here. There's no guarantee of success and a lot of indication that it's going to be an uphill climb. I know we know people who have tried this and failed at it. So thank you for trying to protect me from the discomfort of possible failure and confrontation and interpersonal conflict, all of which you know I hate. So you can give them a little gratitude there. Thank you. Thank you for trying to help me. I appreciate that. And then finally, we're going to gently remind our little imposter monster of our why. What's at stake here? Why are we doing this? And what's the positive outcome that would make it all worthwhile? So I just want you to remember that we have a mission here that we're committed to. And if we pull this off, not only will we get massive value in exchange for this value that we've created, but we're going to impact and inspire the people who matter most to us. So that far beyond just quelling their anxiety and their upset, we're going to set an example that's going to create a ripple effect. And they are going to then set an example for other people that are going to set an example for other people of being brave and putting themselves out there and creating something from the heart. So, or if you just want to like kind of short circuit all of that and just kind of like flip it, here's a little trick that I use, the flip it trick, which is you add at the end of whatever it is that your imposter monster is telling you. And that's awesome because Tess knows this trick. And that's awesome because, so if your imposter monster is telling you it's going to be a flop, and that's awesome because I'm going to learn so much. I'm going to learn so much from that failure, and I'm going to come back even stronger. You're going to embarrass yourself, and that's awesome because I'm setting such a good example for the people in my world that you can go out there and embarrass yourself and still walk away. I'm going to be an inspiration. Okay. Are there any questions on anything we've covered so far?
Yes, can you give an example of like with that trick? Like
Yeah.
what if your monster is saying you're too tired, you don't have energy? I mean, that's the real thing too.
Absolutely. In that case, then I would say your imposter monster is really just looking out for you, and you should probably listen. When it's a message like you're tired and you need rest, that's probably more like an intuitive message that's telling you like, hey, your body needs something. And we need to listen to our bodies. Our bodies are wise. They know what's up. And so, but if you have been resting, and your body tells you you still need more rest, well, maybe there's something going on there. Maybe we need to look beyond that message and say, what are you avoiding with this rest? Are you really tired, or are you trying to avoid something by resting? And look a little bit deeper. Does that make sense?
Yep, thank you.
Cool. Any other questions before we dive into the tool I brought today? Okay, so I'm going to share, kind of like we did last time, for those of you who were at the last workshop, what we'll do here, I have a template, and what you're going to do is actually make a copy of this template. You won't be able to write in it, but you can make a copy of it for yourself, and that you can use for yourself. So let me grab the link here. So here's the link. And so you're going to open that up, and then you're going to go up to File, Make a Copy. And once you've done that, you should be able to fill this out as we go. And I am now going to share my screen so I can show you what I'm looking at as we talk through this.
It says access denied for me when I clicked it.
Okay, let me change that. Yep, it's just a setting I need to change. Okay, the link. Can view. Try again, please. Let me know if it works this time. Aha, I see you popping in there.
Can you repeat again how we copy it?
Go up to File, and then go down to Make a Copy.
Oh, right.
You all see my screen now. So here on this front page, this is just an example. You can change all of this to be whatever you want it to be for the project that you are working on. I have brand development phases because this is usually used in conjunction with the other tool that we used last time, which is your brand alignment worksheet. Anytime you change one of these things in here, the desired outcomes, that will change things on the next page, the task tracker. Is that clear? Cool. So when we go here to the tab at the bottom, we have 3 tabs at the bottom: brand development phases, task tracker, and task breakdown. So now we're going to pop into task tracker. Hello. There we go. So the task tracker is, we've got these desired outcomes from that previous page. And for each desired outcome, we have a few tasks that we will need to do to achieve that desired outcome. Right now, everything's in red, except for this one that's in yellow because it's in process, because usually when we talk through this, this is the thing that we've just done. So, but as you go through and you kind of do these tasks, you can turn them to green. But the thing I really wanted to show you all today is this last tab, which is the task breakdown. And so we take one of these tasks, like the first one here is create a persona for my ideal client. Who do I really want to work with? So we're going to go to the task breakdown right here. Because often what happens, I say, okay, create a persona, and then people have never done that before. And so there's a lot of uncertainty and anxiety around that. They don't really know exactly what all is involved, and they kind of freeze up and go, I don't know what to do next. And so they procrastinate, they avoid it, they do other things that they're more certain about. But this will help you kind of break it down into tasks that you actually recognize, like, oh, I know how to do that. That part I understand. And recognize the parts of it where you're like, I'm not sure if I know how to do that. Maybe I can Google it, or I can ask somebody else. So we have it broken down into steps, which take an hour to a day. Okay, that's what I call a step. Something that's going to take you about like maybe an hour, maybe a couple of hours, maybe a few hours, but less than one day of work to complete. Then we have mini steps, which take less than an hour. And finally, micro steps, which take 1 minute or less. Now, you don't have to break things down quite as much as I've done here. Sometimes those 1 minute stuff is like really obvious and you don't actually need to write it out and break it down, but I've done it for you just so you can see what kinds of things you will experience in there. So if our first step is understand who my ideal client is, some of these mini steps might be, so if we've created a list of values, look back over that values list that I created and make a list of people who share those values. And then if we break that down even further, we look at, okay, what's the first tiny step of that? Well, I'm going to open up a Google Doc, or I'm going to grab a notebook and a pen. Do I know how to do that? Yes, I know how to do that. Moving on to the next step, I'm going to write down my values. Do I know what my values are? Maybe I need to do that right now. And then under value 1, list one way to identify someone who shares it. And then I just repeat, 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 repeat. So you can see how this breaks it down into like, oh, manageable, understandable. I know how to do that. And so this kind of like undermines the common procrastination technique that we all have, which is like, that sounds like it's going to take a long time. Or that sounds like it's going to, that's going to be a lot of work. And so I'm going to save that for a time when I have more time to tackle it. But if you know what the first step is and it takes you less than 1 minute, you've taken away that excuse. No, it's going to take you 1 minute to get started on this. Now, you might not be able to finish that first mini step or step today, and that's okay. Once you get started, now we've kind of eliminated that obstacle toward getting started, getting into the flow of it. Any questions on this? I know that's a lot to take in. No questions? Awesome. So as you can see, I've kind of gone through this and filled out a few things. But like I said, this is really for you. And these are just examples that I have come up with. And so if you want to change anything, go actually back to the last step, right? And pick a different task and just take that task, put it in here, and break it down to steps for yourself. And the only, like I said, the only thing that kind of defines what these steps are is how long it's going to take you. And really only you know that. So this is very personalized to you. Well, that's all I have prepared for y'all, because I thought there'd be a ton of questions, but you're geniuses, obviously. So if y'all want to start playing with this, I will hang out for a bit in case you do have questions that pop up, but feel free to just like dive in there and play around and see what happens for you. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Let me stop share here. Do we feel a little less like procrastinating now? And a little more like getting down into it? I'm so glad that you have made the acquaintance of your imposter monsters. They can actually be your friends once you know what they're up to and can work with them instead of against them. So happy non-procrastinating, everyone. Happy processivity. And like I said, I will be around if anyone needs to pop in and ask questions. But I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you all so much for joining me today. If you have any, if you want to continue the journey, please visit my website at audreymac.com.